Welcome to the second bracket in the March Madness Mayhem 2021. This bracket is for the primary blasters. While we'll talk about these blasters, we're going to be talking about the blasters we have chosen for the March Madness bracket. However, hopefully a lot of this information will apply to these blasters. If you're curious about primaries or learning more about a variety of options for Nerf blasters, this video will go over a lot of the different blaster platforms that are out there. Not all of them, and there will probably be a lot more in the future as well, but some of the principles still apply across platforms. Let us know which one is your favorite and why. Okay, here are our pre-round predictions. We have the Caliburn against the U Caliburn. These are pretty much the same thing in function and form. Captain Slug did a good job designing these. The U Caliburn is typically more rigid. The original Caliburn, has more options for upgrades. I think it's also easier to upgrade it. The U Caliburn is sturdier with U channels running down the sides. A primary should be something you can rely on. So durability and stability are important, and rigidity. Also clearing a jam, speed of reload, some other contributing factors. Typically, if you're doing something right, I feel like you shouldn't really ever need a secondary, so your primary should work in 99% of situations. Even if it jams, you should be able to clear that jam as quickly and efficiently as possible. With those being said, both platforms have some positives and negatives. The U Caliburn is easier to clear jams. However, I feel like the U Caliburn oftentimes is more likely to get jams because it has no dart guide, so the darts can be misaligned. However, using new darts, less of a problem. So it's easier to jam, but easier to clear a jam as well. The original Caliburn is much harder to clear a jam. They're both pump action blasters. I find the pump on the original Caliburn much more ergonomic than the U Caliburn, except if you've seen the new U Rivalburn. It has a pump slide that totally encompasses the U channels, so the prime feels a lot better. You have more grip, especially if you have larger hands. Even with the forward grip, sometimes your hand can rub on those U bars. So ergonomics and rate of fire, the original Caliburn I feel like is better. Technically, the U Caliburn weighs a little less, but once you add in some upgrades and stuff like that, the Caliburn actually, they weigh pretty much the same. So reliability, dependability, ergonomics, rate of fire, accuracy, pretty on par. Also, the Caliburn has more places that you can more easily attach sling mounts and other accessories for, so it makes it a more useful, more versatile platform, especially if you're running around. U Caliburn feels clunkier, it feels bulkier. If you're really rough, go with the U Caliburn. If you're not, go with the Caliburn. Me personally, I'd probably go with the Caliburn just because I know it better. But all right, Foam Knight versus a Chimera. Two very different platforms. The Chimera is Bullpup, pump action, higher FPS, larger plunger tube, shorter prime. It's basically completely different, but it is mag-fed. Foam Knight, you've got Rival Mega, Elite, and Short Dart compatibility. However, you're not going to be using all those at the same time, so it's not as practical as a blaster in an actual event. Chimera is more practical. However, the ergonomics is personal preference. Mag reload behind the grip is actually pretty good. In the shoulder, not good. In front of the grip, not terrible. Behind the grip is a little faster. However, depending on the mag wheel you're using, it could be less ergonomic. The Foam Knight actually does not have a great foregrip either, but that's swappable, and the Chimera doesn't have one. So the Chimera, you can take accessories and whatnot. It might be another one about which one's more familiar and easier to tinker with. The Foam Knight, I have yet to see as much potential as, say, the Chimera. So in a event, I'd probably use the Chimera. The Foam Knight is more versatile in its function, however, less capable in its performance. If that makes sense. Not that it's bad, it's just it seems to have a lower ceiling, maybe. Especially if you're doing a competitive game where your goal is to tag people. If your goal is to maybe, shoot the zombies or break the shields, the Foam Knight would win. But for a normal competitive game with a Chimera, Caliburn or Talon Claw. Now, this is an interesting lineup. Pretty much the same thing when it's just shorter. Personal preference, I like a longer stock. Talon Claw can feel a bit small. With the right upgrades and add-ons, Talon Claw is almost just as good as a Caliburn, but a maxed out Caliburn hits way harder. But unless you're going to a maxed out game, you're not going to need that performance. So Talon Claw is probably more well-rounded for its size, versatility, and shorter prime. Chimera or U Talon Claw. Probably with the U Talon Claw because the mag release is a little bit faster. Having the mag release be right there next to your trigger finger, so that way you can swap out mags quicker, which can make or break a game in competitive environments. U Talon Claw is sturdier, less finicky, less likely to break. Although a Caliburn or a Chimera built well is still pretty rigid and durable, but it's not as durable. Spring Thunder or Microburst. All right, this is getting more harder to decide. Spring Thunder, you got 4 shots plus 1. That's 5 shots total with stock and other attachments available. You can also fire a variety of ammunition along with a single barrel, which makes it as hard hitting as a Caliburn. The Microburst, though, is way fun. That's about it. So I don't know if that's fair. Spring Thunder is fun too. Oh, see, they're both not fair. Both shell ejecting, both use the same kind of shells. Microburst is really more of a secondary. I'm not sure why it's in this primary bracket. So I would use the Spring Thunder as a primary over the Microburst, although I have used the Microburst as a primary before. However, not in any sort of effective manner. So Spring Thunder. U Bullpup or the Lynx. Probably got to give it to the Lynx just because it is got more features. It's sleeker. It's smaller. It seems to be just as sturdy. It's got slam fire, which can help you in a firefight. Pump action, all the same. Oh, but the mag is in the shoulder. Yeah, see. So a Bullpup with a mag too close to your shoulder can make it less ergonomic to reload, which means you're going to have a slam fire, so you can shoot faster, but you have to reload more. Accuracy-wise, you're about the same. I think the Lynx actually has a little bit higher of a power ceiling, maybe just because the barrel is set up to be longer by default. Probably go with the Lynx though, because it is a little smaller and a little lighter, more of a run and gun, which is my style. Go with the Lynx. FDL or Bulwark. That's not very fair. The FDL is brushless. The Bulwark is dual stage at best. The FDL has mag release on the bottom. Bulwark is a little slower with it being on the top. FDL has variable power settings, which can help you in a pinch if you want to conserve ammo or need to waste ammo. Bulwark is full auto only with maybe select fire or burst, depending on your trigger control or your MOSFET or your pusher switch setup. FDL's got all that built in already. FDL is about twice as much as Bulwark. The Bulwark is available. FDL is now currently discontinued, although if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably choose the FDL. I'd probably choose the FDL because of the reasons I said before. Both LiPo powered. FDL is a lot more responsive, single trigger design. Waymaker or Axiom? HPA, yay! Waymaker, oh gosh. Waymaker, manual, valve, solenoid, actuated, Axiom, electronic solenoid. Similar barrel setups. Waymaker has a longer barrel potential based on its size. Waymaker is set up as a Bullpup, smaller, compact platform. I find the Waymaker harder to aim with than a lot of other HPA platforms because of how small it actually is, a bit too small. That could be changed though. Waymaker is a pull detent mag release. Axiom has a thumb gravity drop mag release. Waymaker has adjustable stock. Waymaker has both have remote lines, both super core driven. Probably the Axiom just for the functionality of the mag release and how much quicker it is to swap and the response of the trigger. Although it does take a battery, but functionality side, Axiom has got more of that. All right, let's see. Tempest or the MILSIG M79. I have yet to use a MILSIG M79. However, it's got a lot of features going for it that the Tempest does not. Overall shape and size about the same. M79 has a pull detent mag release, same as the Tempest, which I personally do not prefer. M79 is all metal, much more durable. Tempest is long and skinny. I've seen those break multiple times in multiple places to multiple people. M79 does not have a problem. M79 seems to have more reliable bolt core setup, less jams. Also, the full auto feature could be useful. Tempest is manually activated. I think the M79 is also a manual valve, but it's probably a quicker response, different setup. Barrel, you can probably swap barrels pretty easily in a SCAR. Stock is about the same shape and size, so M79 is definitely a better option, especially since the Tempest is about more expensive than the M79. So M79. Nexus Pro or full length rainbow. Well, that's not fair either. One's 6 shot at most. One's mag fed. One's pump action. One's T-pull. Full length rainbow can hit over 300 FPS. Nexus Pro maybe tops out at 250. Maybe. I haven't seen much of that. So in the actual event, you're probably going to want to have the pump action, lower power over the higher power, less rate of fire, especially in a primary. All right, quarterfinals, Talon Claw versus U Talon Claw. Same thing as Caliburn, U Caliburn. Same metrics there. As far as functionality goes, performance, stability, ergonomics. Let's see. The Talon Claw probably has a little bit better ergonomics, performance, if it is similar. Yeah, I'll probably go with the Talon Claw. U Talon Claw just seems easier to clear a jam on the U Talon Claw, but I feel like it's easier to jam. The stock is sturdier though, which is nice, but the right setup on Talon Claw can do that. Spring Thunder or Lynx. Not much competition here because Spring Thunder is more of a fun primary than a practical primary. Lynx is probably a better performer overall. Rate of fire, FPL Axiom. Oh dear. Let's see, FDL battery powered, way higher rate of fire. I mean, you got more fire control on FDL, waste a lot more ammo. Axiom is semi-auto. You don't waste as much ammo, but you still go through a lot of ammo. Totally different power setups. Assuming you're firing at the same amount of power level, FDL tops out about 200. Axiom, you probably want to go higher than 250, so they're pretty similar. Probably go with the Axiom, though, for its greater accuracy over a longer distance. MILSIG Nexus Pro. Again, the M79, accuracy over a longer distance, similar rate of fire, kind of, more or less, with the, much higher rate of fire. But you've got your select semi-auto there. Talon Claw or Lynx. Similar internals, Lynx have a longer barrel, but they use the same size plunger tube and O-ring seal set up, kind of. Lynx got some redirect, makes it less efficient, so less maximum power. Talon Claw. Lynx is probably a little bit more of a rigid platform, requires more specialized hardware, but assembly aside, that mag position, though, is pretty killer for swapping on mags pretty quick as far as having that quick mag swap. So I'm going to give it to the Talon Claw, but it's pretty close. The Lynx is definitely more of a close quarters battle, a little slower mag release, but somebody good with the Lynx could outdo somebody good with the Talon Claw, maybe. But there's few people good with the Lynx than with the Talon Claw probably these days. So I'll go with the Talon Claw. Axiom versus MILSIG. Bottle on or remote line. Remote line, with a larger tank, one tank can last you the entire day. But with the MILSIG, you're going to have at least 3 or 4 tanks. At least. Which is a lot. But, see, because only one tank only lasts like 2.5 games. So every 2 games, you're swapping out a tank. But the M79 is probably overall the better platform for its reliability, rigidity, and overall function. I mean, the pull D10 mag release though. That's it. Yeah, I like the gravity drop. I'll probably go with the M79. Remote lines can be a little bit more difficult because you do have that tank on your gear, which can add extra weight, which makes it harder to run faster. The M79, hopefully you could sprint full speed, and without a bum knee, you could probably sprint full speed. So, Talon Claw or MILSIG M79. Well, all right. With the HPA laws that people are afraid of being less restrictive now as they were before, I can see the M79 being the go-to for a primary in every venue where it's not banned, just blanket banned. However, the Talon Claw would fit everything else. Especially indoor battles, Talon Claw would be better for it. But most events these days are either on a private field or not indoors. Like, that's why we're so bummed that the coronavirus is because we can't meet outdoors and have groups and stuff. So I'll probably go with the M79. HPA isn't as dangerous as people think it is. Law restrictions aren't as restrictive as people think they are, unless you're in one of those places where it is, in which case it is, but not where I'm at. Not mostly United States either. Maybe like Europe, Germany, those kind of things. But even Australia, there are people who can use HPA on private fields. Like, it's not illegal at all. So I don't think so. Or I go with the M79. I'm not biased or anything, but I haven't even used one yet. So, I mean, I can't really be biased for it. Maybe because some people voted for the Zinc a lot, and because it was like new, I think. You know, what was the last bracket? The Zinc, the Magpie, and the
Pigeon.
Pigeon. Pigeon's been around for a long time, but the Pigeon. It's funny how the Pigeon won though, because the Pigeon has more ergonomic cool factor to it, so that carried a lot of weight in its voting. Same with the Magpie. The Magpie had a cool Western feel, and it won. And the Magpie has only been around for like a year, and the Zinc won, but it's not even released yet. Like no one really has one. I mean, there's a couple out there, but it also has a cool real steel feel of the slide and how it works. And so I feel like not voting for the M79 because it's too realistic would totally go against with how the last bracket ended up. You know, you need to balance the cool factor and performance. And a secondary semi-auto, the Pigeon, Magpie, they're all semi-autos. The only difference is how cool is it. And as far as MILSIM coolness, I feel like the M79 definitely takes the cake out of most of these. So there you go. There's a couple of rants about some of these blasters. Hopefully it was kind of useful for you. If you have more questions, feel free to send us a like, comment, or subscribe, or email, or text, or tweet. So go on and rank your own blaster too. This is really just to get your guys' opinion on the hobby itself and like how you guys like to play and your opinions. And I think it'd be really cool if you would also explain your selections as well. I don't know if that's an option that you can do here, but like send us an email or comment on our posts so we can see your train of thought and your rationale as well, and your balance between rationalizing through the best option, but also having some intuition and some passion or some emotion behind it too. It's not just what shoots the hardest and shoots the fastest, because we saw that doesn't actually matter in the end, or what you prefer and the hobby prefers as a whole. So it would be great to get your guys' feedback. So there's a bracket, guys. We'll see how it turns out at the end of March. I'm really excited to see what you guys' thoughts are, and we'll see you next time.